Hi, I'm Fabrizio, and welcome to Road Rant with the Rabid Underdog. Today's Road Rant is about white privilege. That's right, everybody, strap in, because the Dalai Lama of douchebags is going to take on racial injustice in America. I'm not a big fan of that term either, because, I hear it and it's like, it makes me think like, well, as a white person, it's like, automatically I walk in the store and they're like pouring out like champagne cocktails for me and everything like that. But that's not really what it means. I think most likely the biggest misinterpretation that white people have with the term white privilege is we don't really understand. When we hear a term like privilege, we think of luxury, you think of opulence and everything like that, but you got to look at it from someone else's perspective. You know what I mean? Basically what's happening is things that we do every day that we take for granted is a privilege to someone else. So it's like, it's not really our privilege, but it's like, it's what we do and take for granted every day that becomes a privilege to someone else. I know I just repeated myself there, but hey, it's white privilege day, right? Probably one of the best examples I can think of. Okay, think back to when you went to school. In September and October, we discussed European history right up until the point when Columbus discovered the new land, America, right? So then November, we talked about like the migration of the Pilgrims and when they settled the new land. Then we move on to December, where we just talked about how the 13 original colonies developed. And then in January, you talk about the American Revolution. And then like as February comes along, then we start talking about like, the freedom of the slaves, the Emancipation Proclamation, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. Why do we talk about this in February? Because it's Black History Month. Like when people hear something like Black History Month, they think to themselves, well, why isn't there any White History Month? September, October, November, December, and January. That's 5 months where it's like no black people really get mentioned. You know what I mean? Black people really don't start getting mentioned until around the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation when slaves were freed, which kind of gives like an indication that black people didn't even exist until then, which is pretty messed up when you think about it. For millions of years, black people are just waiting around Africa for those first slave ships to come along so they can be part of history. We need to have more discussion and learn to understand one another rather than listen to all the rhetoric and just start pointing the fingers at each other and everything. It's time for some racial equality here in the United States. Thanks everybody for putting up with me and everything like that. Again, if you like this video, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share with your friends and family. Remember, sharing is caring. And as always, remember, don't be a punk. So when was it that the Rosa Parks thing happened? 1955? Wow, that's pretty crazy if you think about it. That's like 60 years old. That song still holds up to this day. Still holds up to this day. Yes, every time I hear it, my head gets knocking in. And I gotta say, it's like those guys from Outkast. They don't look like a day over 40. Those guys look great. You know what I mean? I guess it's true what they say, black don't crack, huh?